sharing with you a video because I really recognize that so much of what I share online is through written word and photos, and I feel ready to start sharing a more unfiltered version of myself. And this is not a live video, but it is not a scripted video by any means. And I was with my beautiful friend May yesterday, and she really called me out on the fact that it's about time I start sharing in videos. So here I am, and I have my belly on the earth. This is one of the ways that I feel most connected and grounded, and my intention is to share from that connection. And this really ties in with the theme of this video, which is what getting naked has to do with it, which is maybe what got your attention and why you got this far. And to me, getting naked has a lot to do with it, actually. And it's been a really significant part of my journey of sharing myself and my personal transformation and evolution has required me very much to strip back the layers of conditioning, beliefs, expectations of myself, expectations from others. It's like taking it all off, all of these personas, and what is really here. And what is really here is like my naked soul. And naked, of course, here I'm talking metaphorically, and it can feel very exposed, though it can feel very unsettling, because it's like we were so identified with all these layers of all these pieces of clothing that we thought was who we were, and then suddenly we take them off and we're like, whoa, who am I really? But so with that metaphor in mind, the literal undressing of ourselves and baring our skin can be very liberating. And symbolically for me, it's been really important. And so about 1.5 years ago, that was kind of a big breakthrough moment for me, was putting a photo of myself naked on the internet and on social media, of course within the parameters of what's allowed on social media. And this was like a really pivotal point for me, because I had been feeling so repressed, to be honest. Like, so much of my training as a yoga teacher and as a yogini was really from a tradition that was very orthodox in tradition and very rules-based. Like, there was a lot of you should do this and you should not do that, and there was all these unspoken rules of like, okay, you need to be dressed very modestly and be very holy and walk and talk a certain way. And it actually got to a point where I realized, whoa, this is very this is just another persona, this is just another cloak actually, that is concealing who I really am and preventing my true expression in the world. And so it was a process of untangling myself from all of those stories for some time before I then took that leap and posted that photo of myself, which was a big turning point for me. And it was not easy, and yet I gave myself more permission from that point on to be more authentically me. And if that meant showing up naked, that meant showing up naked. And it doesn't always mean that. There's also parts of me that are very nun-like and monastically inclined. That's part of me. Another really big part of me is the wild woman. And, I run these retreats every month, and I have done for over 4 years now. And I started off calling them yoga and nature retreats, and there were these beautiful gatherings every month. Really successful, really rewarding for me and the women who came. And then at the start of this year, I decided to change their name to Into the Wild as a part of my own breaking free from who I think I should be if I'm a yoga teacher and what I need to live up to. It's like, you know what? Fuck that. This is my offering and I'm going to make it what I want it to be. I really needed to shed that baggage of my past. And so changing the name was a way to do that. And on the very first retreat that I had this year under that name, there was a little bit of expectation. Of course, I put a little bit of pressure on myself. It's like, okay, well, now we're going to get wild because it's called Into the Wild. And and you know, on these retreats, it's true that Mother Nature is the real teacher. A bit of a sore back here. This one. So yeah, Mama Nature is the true teacher on these retreats, and whatever she is doing is going to influence what we do. And on this particular day in January, it was like a classic summer's day in Queensland. It was 38 degrees, and there was a storm brewing, and it was so intense. And I was also due to start bleeding. I was super premenstrual. So all of this like mixed together inside of me was like this. It was a pressure cooker is how the best way I could explain it. And it was like she was going to explode in any moment. And so when it came to having our break on the retreat, fortunately the creek was flowing. There was like a water hole on the end of the property, and I went and I dipped in. I prayed hard. I centered myself. It's like, okay, I've got this. And then not long after that, the heavens opened and the rain started pouring down. And we were so overdue for rain at this point as well. And it was like Mama Nature was inviting me. She was inviting us to be wild. And I knew what it meant in that moment, and yet I still had this resistance. There were these like remnants of the resistance that I was so unwilling in that moment to surrender and let go of. And thank Goddess, my darling friend Shez, who was my assistant on that retreat, she's like, we just have to take our clothes off and dance. And it's like, yes, of course, thank you. And so we did. We stripped off our clothes. We danced in the rain, and I just felt the relief. The relief is such a huge relief. And then, you know, of course, all the other women came and joined in total delight. And the couple who chose not to delighted in just watching and were very much a part of the experience. And it was so liberating, and to see all these women of all these different ages and body shapes, and in their raw beauty. I'll never forget it. It was just so powerful, and you know that has never been repeated, to be honest. I've done these retreats. I've done 4 of them now under that name, and the nature of the wild is unpredictable. You cannot script the wild. You cannot control the wild. You cannot plan for the wild. You can only tune in the moment and notice how our wild nature wants to express. And it is very intimately linked with the wild, with nature when she is in her undisturbed, pristine state. She reminds us that we too are wild, and in our wildness lies our power. So getting naked has a lot to do with it, and you don't have to take your clothes off, because not every woman feels called to take her clothes off and put her photos on the internet. For me, that just happened to be a really pivotal, important way for me to express myself, and for me to break free from these constraints that I had felt so limited by. And I think sharing this video is just another leap, because it's uncomfortable, it's new to put myself forward in this unscripted way, but it feels like it's time, and I really value authenticity. I want to show up as I really am, and I want to invite you to do the same. So thank you for hearing me, and big, big love.